Hi, my name is Steven, and I'm here today to talk to you about what is cello. So, let's start. So, the cello consists of many different parts. You have, starting with the head of the instrument, you have here, I don't know if you can see this, but you have here, which is a scroll. This is what we call a scroll. And then here we have this entire thing here. This is called a peg box. So a peg box is basically just to hold the pegs, which in turn holds your string, as you can see, if you can see. So the strings are all tied up here, and what we usually do with the pegs is that usually when we want to tune the instrument, we actually change or rotate the pegs so that it becomes tighter or becomes looser. So as the string becomes tighter, it becomes higher in terms of pitch, and then when it's looser, then the pitch becomes lower, right? Physics. Now, moving on, we have here a certain part of the cello, this part. This is called a nut, and honestly, I don't know what is the function of a nut, but as you can see, it actually holds the string a little higher up from the fingerboard, so I'm guessing it actually prevents the string from hitting on the fingerboard when you play, because obviously when you play, the string vibrates, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. So the nut is actually holding the string up a little bit so that it doesn't hit on the fingerboard too much. And then of course we have this whole black wooden thing. This is called the fingerboard because it's a wooden board where we can put our fingers on. Fingerboard. And then at the back of the instrument, we have the neck of the cello, which is where we usually put our thumb. And then it's connected all the way to the shoulders of the cello here and the body of the cello. And then it goes all the way down here to what we call the upper bout, B-O-U-T bout, and then the bout, sort of like the waist, and then the lower bout, all the way down here to the spike, or some people call it an end pin, but it's not really a pin per se, so I usually like to call it a spike because it's usually sharp at the end, so it's spiky, so it's a spike. All of the string instruments usually have this little white thing. This is called a bridge, and the purpose of the bridge is actually to, again, hold the string up, prevent the strings from hitting on the fingerboard, and it's sort of like a bridge between the fingerboard and this tailpiece at the end here, right? And then also at the same time, this bridge actually serves sort of like a bridge that transmits all of the vibration from the strings into the body of the cello, which is then supported by a little piece of round wood, which is inside the instrument. So I'm not sure if you can see the insides, but later maybe I can show it to you, or maybe I can show you a picture. So this actually allows the vibration to go inside into the body of the instrument, vibrates the air inside the instrument, and then the sound of the instrument actually comes out through the F hole of this instrument. So you can see here there are two holes that are shaped like an F and an inverted F. So sound actually comes out from here once the air is vibrated inside. So that's why this acoustic instrument can actually produce such a loud sound, because we have a bigger body as compared to the violin. And so of course we can produce a bigger sound from an instrument, right? So there are also different smaller things which are not really significant, but we have fine tuners here, which is here at the tailpiece. This is called a tailpiece. Here we usually have fine tuners. So what is the difference between the fine tuners and pegs? Usually people will ask this question. So if you haven't noticed, we have the pegs, which are slightly bigger, right? And then of course we have the fine tuners, which are actually smaller. So when you want to change the pitch of the string, let's say changing it from do to sol, for example, then you would use the pegs because they're much bigger and they can move a lot more as compared to the fine tuners. Because the fine tuners, if you know the mechanism, you can check out somebody's cello next time. I don't know how to show this to you here. But you can see here that it's quite tiny. So what you can do is when you tighten the screw, the thing actually pulls the string a little bit tighter, and so the string becomes slightly tighter and it goes from a little sharper. right? So we use the fine tuners actually to fine tune our intonation of our strings, especially when you're playing in orchestras or when rehearsal is about to start and you haven't tuned. This is what we use. Quite useful actually, right? So that's it for the instrument, but without this other thing, we wouldn't be able to create sound on the instrument, and that thing is what we call not a stick, but a bow, B-O-W, bow, right? So on the bow, this is a very interesting and intriguing little piece of wood. We have here the wooden stick, right? But it's not just a piece of stick with a lot of hair. The hair is usually, from what I know, they are usually polished horsehair. But I'm not sure what kind of horse. That one maybe you have to ask somebody who does the bow. But I only know that it's horsehair, and when we play, we have to take care of the horsehair, because if we touch the hair with our fingers, like touch it, and what happens is that the oil and dirt and sweat from our fingers will actually get stuck on the hair, and then thus will actually get stuck in the hair as well. So you want to be careful when you're playing with your bow. You don't want to touch the hair. But anyway, we have the wooden stick, and then on the tip of the wooden stick, this is the tip of the bow. Usually what we have here is that we have this little piece of thing that, again, I don't know what is the purpose of this. But anyway, I know that hair is actually tied into here with a little piece of wood inside the bow, so that it stops, as you can see, so that it stops the hair from running away from the bow, so it's pulled tightly, right? And then, of course, at the other end of the bow, this part, usually called the lower half of the bow, or sometimes we call it the frog of the bow, because we have here this little black thing. This is called the frog. Don't ask me why, I don't know why, but it's called a frog, right? And then here we have, usually this part we call it a ferrule. So this ferrule actually, it has like a little piece of wood. I don't know if you can see it, like a little piece of wood inside. And the purpose of that wood is again the same as the tip of the bow, where it holds the string, holds the bow hair so that it doesn't fall off quite easily, right? And then of course we have a screw here that allows you to tighten the bow so that you can see like the bow becomes straighter, or if I loosen the screw, it becomes looser, and then the bow stick becomes a little bit more curved, right? You can see that, okay? And then, of course, we have the leathery part, the leather, and then here we have winding. Now, winding is sometimes made out of silk, sometimes some people use metal. I'm not sure what's the exact material for it, but it's actually used to add weight onto the bow so that it it improves the balance of the bow a little bit better, right? So we have the bow. So with the cello and the bow now, then you can create sound. Now, how is sound created on a cello? So the sound of the cello is actually produced when the player, such as me, holds the bow with a proper technique of holding, and then when you put the bow on the string, and when you pull the string, it vibrates, then you get sound from the cello. Now, you might be thinking, wait, doesn't people actually use their left hand fingers to put on this fingerboard and play, right? So yes, that's what we do. Usually when we play, we have the right hand, that is playing on the string, and then we also have the left hand that is pressing on the string. So the purpose why we press on the string actually is to shorten the string so that the string is initially this long, and then now it becomes a little shorter and it becomes higher in pitch. So for example, you get this note, and then when I press it, it becomes higher. Or if I press it even lower, it becomes even higher. Right, for example. So this is sort of like the basic way of how we create sound on the cello. Now, going into creating, like we've just talked about how we create sound on the cello. Now, how do you create different kinds of sound on the cello then? So the cello is actually a very colorful instrument where you can create all sorts of different kinds of tone color, and you can mix and match all kinds of different kinds of sound that you want. For example, if you want something that's really bright, then you would sometimes, we know the technique to that. I'm just going to briefly mention it. So sometimes when we want to play something bright, what we do is we play with full horsehair, all of your hair on the string like this. And then what you do is you play with very strong bow, which means that you have a lot of weight on your arm, and you drop your weight into the string, and then you just play. And then you get this bright and loud kind of sound that's announcing that my arrival, I am here, you should listen to me, right? And then also at some times, music is not just being loud and announcing your arrival. So sometimes when you have a little bit more passages that are a little bit more sensitive and softer, what we can do is we reduce the amount of hair to this. And then what we do is you just play with a little bit of the hair, a little bit closer to the fingerboard, less weight, and then you play it slightly softer. Then you get a really soft, warm, or rounded, or closed sound. Now, there are a lot of different combination of sounds that we can get from the cello, and it's not just these two. So imagine having all these kind of different adjectives like warm, bright, loud, soft, intense, not intense, crying, laughing. So imagine mixing up all these different adjectives and putting it into your bow, into your playing. Then you'll be able to create a lot of colorful and different kinds of tone color when you play on the cello. So that's basically how. So now I'm going to play maybe two different kinds of pieces for you. One is a quant from Bach's Cello Suite No. 1. And this is sort of like a famous piece that all cellists would know. If you're not a cellist, maybe you would know, maybe you wouldn't know, but there are a lot of other instruments that stole this piece, like the percussion, for example, which is right behind me, if you can see it. And then also the violists, they usually play this as well. So if you're a violist or percussionist, you might know this, or else you might not know this. Or I think the trombonist plays this as well. Yeah. So anyway, I'll be playing this. So it's sort of like a really lively dance. And there's a lot of like difference in legato, which is smooth playing, and then also with a little bit of jumpy notes in between. And then, of course, after this, I will play something that's a little bit more calm and poised, so that you can hear the difference of sound between those two pieces. So here goes. And then now, I'll be playing for you the Samba, which is from the same suite, and this is a a soft, not soft, but usually a little bit gentler, and it's a slower dance that actually originated from Spain. It's a Spanish dance, and the characteristic of samba is that usually you have the strong beat on the second beat rather than on the first beat, right? So you will hear it later when I play this. And now, there is a common perception about the cello that it's a bass instrument, which people always think that, oh, a cello in the orchestra, they usually play the lower lines, they are not as interesting as compared to the other melodic instruments. For example, you have the flute, and the oboe, the violin, even the viola. But I don't think that's necessarily true. Maybe because I'm biased, I'm a cellist. But the cello is a very versatile instrument where it can go super high. Like you can play notes like here, here, and then also you can go super low, like think from here. And so you have this multitude of octaves that you can play, so from really low all the way to really high. And so you can't actually just say and categorize that the cello is actually a bass instrument, although sometimes it is. But the cello can be really versatile. It can be anything really. You can play the melody, you can play somewhere in between, like the viola, and then also you can go super low, not like the double bass low, but low enough to be in a string quartet, right? So, yeah, the cello actually is a very versatile instrument. So don't have that sort of like wrong impression that cello can only play bass lines or just pulsating quavers. It's actually not true. We can do a lot of different things if you ask. So don't be biased and don't be judgmental and say that the cello actually is not interesting. The cello actually is more interesting than any of the other string instruments. Maybe I'm biased, but